What's up, everybody, and welcome to an emergency podcast of Call It What You Want. Drop your comments in the chat below and then hit like and subscribe because I don't know if you heard or not, everybody. Mauricio Pochettino has agreed to become the U.S. men's national team coach. Welcome to Call It What You Want. I'm Jimmy Conrad alongside Charlie Davies and Tony Meola, and we are buzzing because we got some news. It's official, almost official. U.S. Soccer actually hasn't put anything out, but all the reputable journalists out there have said this is a done deal. Chuck, give me your initial reaction of Pochettino coming to the U.S.
Let's go!
Hey!
I couldn't be more hyped. And before we even started the show, we got the chat going off. I got a little triggered. I already got triggered throughout the show because I think I've already been absolutely lit. A fire lit under me. I am feeling hyped up. I'm ready to go. Pochettino to the USA. Let's go. We beat England scenes. To Pochettino.
Unbelievable scenes. Tones, your reaction.
Yeah, look,
maybe not as emotional as being Chuck. Where are you?
I'm not as triggered already by the chat as Charlie is because I can't find the chat on the thing anyway. But I'm excited. This is big news, obviously, and we got a guy that I think ticks off a lot of boxes. So great news to wake up to today. I can't wait to get started here, and let's get it rolling.
All right, we are going to stop down right now. Just take a little break so we can get it going on the Golazo Network. Don't go anywhere. Hit like and subscribe. Make that happen. Woo! Hi, hello, and welcome to your favorite Average to Good podcast. Call it what you want. We got some big news, everybody. Mauricio Pochettino is agreed to take over the U.S. men's national team. What? That is unbelievable. Emergency podcast time. I'm Jimmy Conrad alongside Charlie Davies and Tony Meola. We're going to break it all down for you. We're very excited to get into this because it's a reality. We talked about it on the last show that it's a possibility. Now it's the real deal. We're just waiting for U.S. Soccer to confirm, but all the reputable journalists have said it is a done deal. And so Charlie Davies, fresh off a vacation, fresh off of getting some sun, looking good, looking refreshed. What are your thoughts on this? I mean, you couldn't have come back for better news for the U.S. men's national team.
I still have my makeup on from morning footy. I couldn't go down there and clean it up because I'm too excited for this podcast. This is massive. This is massive from U.S. Soccer. So let's give a round of applause for Matt Crocker because he took care of the women and getting Emma Hayes, top manager. It didn't take her too long to win a gold medal and turn that U.S. women's national team back into
just 10 games. 10 games. What a gold medal. We'll play Emma Hayes.
The top, the cream of the crop, right? And for the U.S. men's national team, it obviously goes back to that relationship when he was coaching head of the academy at Southampton while Mauricio Pochettino was there. And to have that conversation, that initial conversation to say, this is what we're trying to do, I think you're a perfect fit. Hear me out. Because it's one thing to say, to get that conversation, to have that phone call. It's another thing to have Mauricio Pochettino say, you know what? This is the right step for me in my career, the right timing, the right moment. This is an incredible, incredible signing. Once it happens, I think we're at least he's in the right frame of mind. He wants to do this. This is stellar. Let's go.
Okay, so I want to give a shout out to Todd Bowley, the owner of Chelsea, who just continues to sign. Listen, he something happened with them. Oh, Emma Hayes was ready to go, right? She was at Chelsea. Now she's with the U.S. Women's. And now something happened with Mauricio Pochettino at the end of last season, and Pochettino is now available for us. So Todd Bowley doing the hard work for both programs, for the women or for our national teams. So Tones, this is kind of how I want to phrase it. So, or frame it up for everybody that's listening and or watching. Mauricio Pochettino is a coach that I think is a big name, of course, high profile, but any national team would want this guy, or most national teams. 99% of the national teams out there would be like, oh, cool, we got Pochettino as a manager. I think this guy could do a good job. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I guess the 1% is Argentina at the moment.
And Brazil.
Take them. Yeah, Brazil maybe, but Look, when we started this whole process, at the end of July beginning of July, I'm sorry, when Gregg got fired, there were a couple names that were out there, right? That right off the bat, and there was Jurgen Klopp, obviously, and Mauricio Pochettino, and then there was a list of a whole bunch of other guys. And these two names were sort of pipe dreams, right? They were like, if we can talk to these guys, it would be great. And somehow Matt Crocker seems to have pulled this thing off. And you mentioned Todd Boehly. Todd Boehly might be the guy that slows this process down a little bit when it's all said and done, because there's still a lot of things that need to be worked out. But I think it's exciting news. I think about whichever of the important boxes you had as a fan, as a pundit, as whatever that needed to be checked. Big name, experience with big players, experience at the highest level, experience at the international level, which I think I told you first podcast was not much of a box for me. That was the one that didn't mean a lot to me. And wherever you were at, he checks off just about every single box. And I couldn't be any more excited to see him come here and hopefully turn this thing in the right direction.
Jimmy, this question's for you now.
Oh, I can't wait.
Because I got it. We got to throw this at you. All right. We finally get a name. We finally get a manager who has a proven track record in competing for trophies. Maybe not necessarily winning trophies, but getting to finals and get second place in the Premier League, right? This is a top manager. Has done it with some of the best players in the world, has done it with players who are just getting their feet wet in the professional game. He's developed players. Okay. Yeah. What is he going to change in your mind in his first couple of appearances with the U.S. men's national team? What are you expecting him to do when he comes into the locker room? He's got his first camp, and then that first starting 11. What are you expecting? What do you think we're going to see?
Okay, so I got three things for you, Chuck. Okay. One, he's Argentine, and apparently if you have an Argentinian manager, you have a really good chance of having some success. That's great. Second, the guy played center back for 17 years as a player, professional player, and I got plenty of time for him. I got plenty of time for him. And third, I think what's the most important thing, yes, he ticks a lot of boxes, as Tony says, and his experience and being able to manage different types of locker rooms. I look at that PSG locker room in particular, where he's got to figure out how to make everybody happy amongst Leo Messi and Neymar and Kylian Mbappe in particular, and trying to make that harmonious, right? And I think that's a different type of challenge than potentially our group of players who don't have the same type of pedigree as players, and maybe the egos aren't as big. So he's kind of seen the game at all different levels. But my number one thing that I absolutely love is that these players needed to hear a different voice. And that's going to be helpful. And when you add to the fact that it's a manager that has this type of track record, and in some ways we could argue with some of his stints as coach, he's punched above his weight. I mean, he did really, really well with that Tottenham team. And he got the most out of that Tottenham team. And certain players in particular, like Dele Alli, that guy has fallen off a cliff since Pochettino hasn't been his coach anymore. But under him, he was
Harry Winks.
Harry Winks. I mean, I actually went back and looked at that 2018-2019 Tottenham team that made it to the Champions League final. And you're like, wow, how did he manifest that to make sure that those guys could get into it? We're looking at it right now. You got Danny Rose playing left back. You got to a Champions League final with Danny Rose at left back. Vertonghen, Alderweireld.
Hey, put some respect on that name.
Okay, fine, Danny Rose. when he was on his game, he was excellent. Harry Winks, Sissoko, and then you got Son and obviously Harry Kane up top. So there's things that I like about what he's accomplished collectively, but then when I think about what he can bring to individual players, that makes me excited as well. My big concern, I would say, and I guess we're going to do a few red flags here, and Tones, I want to hear from you on this too, is that I don't know if he's going to have enough time, because it's a national team job, to implement the style that we all know that he's capable of and has demonstrated at multiple clubs throughout his career. Tones, your thoughts?
Yeah, I don't know the time thing is that much of a difference, right? Makes a big difference, right? He knows he's getting into a national team job. So whoever took over this national team job was going to have the same time as Mauricio Pochettino. So I'd rather have a better manager who has a better skill set, who has seemingly
great point.
Seemingly a better relationship, it looks like, with his players, and knows how to manifest those relationships at the job now. And I think we got the right job. But again, whoever took over was going to have all the same obstacles: timing leading into the World Cup, the roster, who's playing, who's not playing. They all had the same challenges. So we at least got a guy that we think is competent in all of those areas, which would get us to the end point that we want to be quicker than most other guys. And that's kind of how I would answer that question, the way you put it.
Okay, and then Chuck, to kind of follow up on what Tone says and to answer your question in another way, I think he's going to demand respect right when he comes in. Like if you're one of the guys, you're like, oh shit, Mauricio Pochettino's here. It's
different.
It's different. It's different. It's different.
This is different.
And so you listen different, and that's, I think, to it that when you tick all those boxes, as Tone has mentioned, you can walk in there with some gravitas that maybe another manager would lack, who maybe didn't have the same type of experience. So here's a question for you, Chuck. Are you worried? And I guess are you worried that Pochettino could potentially be tempted by other offers? And I guess that's a bigger question, club offers in the middle of this run. But I'm curious about the details, because if I'm Mauricio Pochettino, I just had I'm working with Chelsea for a year. Sounds like he would age you about 10 years at this point. And I wonder if it was just the right time for him to come in and be like, hey, I just want to slow things down a little bit. And then after 2026, after however it goes with the US, then I can jump back into the club scene. I'm kind of curious about the details of this contract. I don't know if you have any of those. Probably not, because we're all speculating.
Well, it's not even signed. It's not even signed. They're still working through the contract.
That's true. I'm handing you the baton. Take it from there.
What I will say is I think he's committed up until the World Cup, because let's be realistic. If a big club comes for him, it's because they decided to sack their current manager that they have. And typically you're not going to get the deal that you would have had. You know, you had a fresh start in the summer where you're coming in, you have a full preseason, maybe similar to how he came into the Chelsea situation. He waited until the season ended, essentially. And then, you know, he had some time to kind of assess who he wanted to keep, which direction he wanted to go in. And then he was able to come into a fresh team with a preseason and start all over. I think it'll be the same thing where he takes his time with this group. He has a huge potential and upside to kind of bring U.S. glory for the first time in a World Cup, like as far as they've ever been. And then he can set sail and end up in a good situation in a summer where he has a full preseason to go to a big club. So I'm not worried about him leaving. If he mentally says, this is what I want to do, this is the right time in my career, then I think he will see it through. I feel like he's just one of those honorable guys, unless there was like just an absolute crazy situation where the contract comes, which I don't foresee. I think he's in this for the long run, up until the World Cup.
Okay, and then Tones. Now, before we've hired Mauricio Pochettino, Matt Crocker said after firing Gregg Berhalter that they're looking for a serial winner. And I know that Chuck touched upon it a little bit earlier that, okay, maybe he doesn't win all the time, but he's demonstrated that he can challenge for trophies. But Matt Crocker said we're looking for a serial winner. And we could argue that Pochettino isn't a serial winner. The only trophies that he has are with PSG, which I think Chuck can manage PSG and win trophies. Chuck just took a stray, by the way. So does that concern you that he doesn't tick that box, Tones?
How dare him get to the finals of Champions League with that team that you laid out there before on the screen?
Exactly.
No, it doesn't. So he hasn't won a trophy, a title. If he had Pep Guardiola's team for the last couple of years, would he have lost the title? I don't know. For me, that's not a concern. We'd love for him to get us to a finals of a World Cup. Would we be happy with just that, getting to a finals of a World Cup? I mean, think about the statement in general. Again, I go back to there were two guys on the list at the beginning of this process, which seems like 6 or 7 weeks ago now, that we said, yeah, let's go look at them and let's try and get them. But we need to have this other list over here because we're probably not going to get those two guys. We're probably not going to get Jurgen Klopp, and we're probably not going to get Mauricio Pochettino. Those are two guys that, they're pie in the sky. Well, guess what? We just got one, right? And we need to embrace it. I'm sure they'll get this contract worked out. I'm sure he understands that this is pretty much a 2-year commitment, right? And he's going to be here for 2 years. I'm sure he understands he's going to be the coach of the host team in a World Cup, which is massive. He will. It's not as if the world of football doesn't know him already and doesn't know his work. He'll be even more well known for doing the job that he does here. So I'm struggling, Jimmy, to find a box that he doesn't tick for me. I love
that. I love that.
I want to throw in terms of the serial winner, because right, it's all subjective. What do you mean by serial winner? Are you talking trophies? Are you talking about just winning matches? Because in that 2016-17 season where he took Tottenham to second place behind Chelsea, just 6 points from the top, he had 26 wins, 8 draws, 4 losses, 86 goals scored, and 26 conceded. So he actually had a fantastic season. When you say winning, that to me is consistency. That's winning. The following season, 3rd place, 23 wins, 8 draws, 7 losses. And then the following season, he took 4th, but he has still had 23 wins.
All 4 of his seasons at Tottenham, he was top 4.
Just winning games.
Yeah.
He's winning games consistently at the highest level. We've never had that.
That's what we want.
This is the first time the U.S. men's national team has ever had a manager who's managed in league play. Not Jurgen Klinsmann took 3rd at the World Cup, and that's phenomenal with Germany. But in terms of a Premier League season, a top 5 league season, consistency, winning games, this is the first time the U.S. men's national team has had a manager of this stature.
Yeah,
don't trigger me. Don't trigger me with Jurgen Klinsmann. I will not. I can't.
Don't trigger me in the comments with Hervé Renard. If I see that name any more Renards, I'm gonna break this. I'm gonna break this. Break all this thing.
It took him for 2.
Let's
go. All right. We're gonna take a break here and call what you want. When we come back, we're gonna dive in even further and really talk about Mauricio Pochettino's really individual attention to some of the players in our player pool. Don't go anywhere.
I think I necessarily didn't get the opportunities under Gregg, and I'm itching for an opportunity to show these guys that I can play and I can be that person for the team. I just need the opportunity. And under BJ and under Anthony Hudson, they gave me a shot and gave my 2 caps, and hope I could prove during those games that I can show and I can play well. But hopefully, with the future to come, I can be that guy and I get my opportunities and I'll take full advantage of it.
Hey, I need that opportunity too.
For sure. For those that are just listening, those are the words of Austin Trusty, Sheffield United, a center back looking to get his opportunity. So I guess this leads us into this question, and welcome back into Call It What You Want. I'm Jimmy alongside Chuck and Tony. And Chuck, I'm coming to you first because Austin Trusty is one of maybe a few players that could benefit from not just Mauricio Pochettino coming in, especially as a former center back himself, but also just a new voice, a new set of eyes. He mentioned there, Austin, that he got that look under the assistance for Gregg at that time when Gregg was trying to renegotiate his contract and get back in. And so there's Austin Trusty, there's John Brooks, right? We talked about him as being with Matarazzo potentially coming back in. He plays for him in Hoffenheim. Matt Miazga, Jordy Pefok, Brandon Vasquez. Maybe there's a chance to convince Diego Luna to come back into the fold since he's teasing about playing for the Mexican national team and maybe some dual nationals. You got Luca Cogliosho as well at Burnley. That might be interesting now that Pochettino's involved. This kind of changes the landscape, and I think a real positive way because it's going to get everybody on their toes. Keep everybody on their toes.
You're right, Jimmy. This is a world-renowned manager. Everyone knows what he brings to the table, and I think he has great character. I think he's a good person, and he instills belief in a locker room. That's what he did at Tottenham. He gave them belief, and they thrived. When he was on the sidelines, they thrived. So for me, this is a wake-up call to any U.S. men's national team player or potential player that you got a chance now. This is a new manager who has no biases coming into this. There's no agents or favorites, or it's the best players for his system will get an opportunity. And if you're playing, guess what? You're going to get it called in. If you're playing and you're playing well, you're going to get called in. If you're not playing, good luck. because I don't know another manager in the world, when you're not playing, you're getting called into a national team. It's just a
Preach,
fact.
brother.
You need to play, and you need to play well to get called up for a national team. And if you're not playing, if you're not seeing any minutes, how the hell do you think you're going to get called up when Pochettino's going to be like, I don't know if you can play because I haven't seen you on the pitch. So how can I call you into a national team camp?
Yeah, it's a great opportunity, Tones, to set a precedent, a new precedent, right? That maybe those lines have been blurred under Gregg, and also Gregg was so heavy on those player relationships. Sometimes that can get in the way of minutes or not, right? Or how you're performing as a player in that particular moment.
Yeah, I think that the second point, how you're playing and performing, maybe got in the way. But according to all reports, and we had Guillaume Balaguer on a little bit earlier today on Morning Footy, who wrote one of his books, one of his biographies, and he was real big. He said he's real big on the player relationship. So I don't know that part's going to go away. It might be a little bit different. I think it's going to be more instead of I felt like in a lot of ways, Gregg wanted it to be a brother relationship, where most Pochettino is going to be a dad relationship, a dad-son relationship.
That's a great distinction. Great distinction. Yeah.
Which is obviously a little bit different from a player standpoint. So I don't know that part's going to change at all, Jimmy, because I still do think it's important, right?
Oh, of course.
I think there's a line, right? And there always has to be a line. And when you start doing it, and I'm going to preach on this whole playing thing, because you know what's going to happen when he says 2 months from now, you got to be playing at your club or you're not coming in, right? Think about how this roster might look, right? If that is the hard line in the sand, I don't think it's that hard, but I think he's going to tell these players, you got to before we go to the World Cup, you got to get your ass in a situation where you're playing all the time. If you're not playing at Milan, then go find a lesser club that you're going to play at week in and week out, or I can't use you. I can't use you.
And I want to throw this in because we already have some trolls up in the comments. I love it. I appreciate it. Trying to trigger me. But hey, listen.
Our manager of the chat, Charlie Davies.
From Chris Pahodas, he said, so if Christian Pulisic isn't good for Pochettino's system, are we going to leave him off? ?
That's a different question. Different system.
In what world are we talking about? My man's playing, and he's a star at Milan. That's not going to be a question.
No.
He will fit into the plans. He will fit into the system.
Let's throw out the names, Charlie. Throw out the names. You got Matt Turner, who doesn't play.
Yes.
Right? You got Timothy Weah, who hardly plays, although this year might look different because you got Weston McKennie, who doesn't have a team. You have Flo Balogun, who doesn't play all the time. You have Brendan Aronson, who doesn't play all the time. I mean, I don't have the list in front of me, but
Miss Musa, Ricardo Pepi.
There you go.
I mean, how many? How many?
It's a long list.
It's just like keep coming.
Longer than it should be. Yes.
These players, and then you need to talk about health, right? How many players are healthy? When you're dealing with injuries. So if you are not playing at your club, and I get it, you want to be in the most competitive environment. You also want to be paid the most. So a lot of those bigger clubs pay you the most. But if you aren't playing and you know where you stand at your club, Ricardo Pepi, you're behind the captain at PSV. And sure, PSV is a great club for you, a great league if you're playing. But you're behind Luke de Jong, who's the captain, the top goal scorer. You are not playing unless there's an injury. You need to leave. You need to go. Otherwise, kiss that national team goodbye, right? That's not going to happen for you. So there are players like that need to find a good spot where they're going to get the opportunities to play, and then it's on them to deliver. But at a club like PSV, he's not even going to get an opportunity. You come in 5 minutes here, 2 minutes here. You're just on the bench here or playing reserve games. It's just, when it's the right time to leave. And I really hope that we see a lot more players, take a chance to take a step back to take 2 steps forward.
Yeah, that would be a positive ripple effect, ultimately, of being able to come in clean and set this new precedent of how this team is going to be run in a lot of different ways.
Jim, sorry, man. I see. I just found where the comments are. I'm on.
Tony's triggered now.
Go.
We got
Tony's
triggered. What is happening? Tones has been triggered.
I love you guys. You triggered Tony.
You triggered Tones. He's the most steady player.
The first thing I read was something. I don't have my glasses on, so it's kind of hard. But I read something about MLS players. guess what, my friends? Whoever's listening, Mauricio Pochettino is going to be scouring MLS for players. Don't fool yourself that any manager who comes in is not going to look in our domestic league for players to see who's in form. You might not like it, but it's his job to pick the guys that he thinks that fits this thing and can make something out of them on the national team level. So we can scrap that argument, and we might scrap it in camp number 1 for Mauricio Pochettino. Who knows how he's going to approach the whole thing? I think he's going to cast a wide net. There's going to be a big pool. But that idea and that notion is crazy if you think that's what it's going to look like.
Yeah, there's some other players too who are kind of been on the fringes or not involved at all, who do play regularly. John Brooks is a name that comes in. He's still relatively young and a good, Tim Ream has proven you can be a nice center back that ages like fine wine. And then you have Johnny Cardoso, who does play regularly and has been and looked very impressive for Real Betis in La Liga last season. Can he now break in and be considered one of the regulars? It's going to be pretty fun to see how it's all going to unfold. There's another angle too that I think is interesting because you have players. Walker Zimmerman said something after the Olympics, and then you had Tyler Adams, who said some comments on Men in Blazers recently, and he said this as a quote: "I think we need someone that's almost a little bit ruthless, coming in and putting everyone in their place. No ifs, ands, or buts. It's not really a conversation." We've seen this and heard this from different players in and around the player pool who have been mentioning we need a little bit more. For me, the underlying message here is we need some more accountability. Like if you're not playing well,
we weren't getting that.
We weren't getting
Gregg Berhalter is basically
why you
what
don't
he just
hire
said
somebody for a second goddamn cycle. I'm sorry, especially here in America. I know in other countries it's different.
Forgive the man. I'll tell you right now, if it meant rehiring the wrong candidate to get Pochettino in the end,
one step back for 2 steps forward, Chuck.
Exactly.
I love that mentality. Let's go.
There you go. Let's go. So
God,
Crocker ends up getting it right. All right.
I didn't even see a comment to get triggered. Actually, Tyler Adams triggered me with that comment. Thank you, Tyler.
There you go. And I love that Tony Meola can now see the comments. So let's go, people. Trigger the hell out of Tony.
Well, I'm going to dive in at some point here with these glasses.
Be careful. Tread carefully.
Yeah, here's something I thought on the ride back from the studio here. I was thinking about because you mentioned Koleosha. Is it Koleosha or Koleosho? I can't remember.
Koleosho.
A guy like that who, and they're out there because U.S. Soccer, every dual national they're on. So let's not make any mistake about that. They're on all of these guys. But a guy like that who maybe sits on the fence, right, and says, well, I'm looking at the U.S. team. They don't have a manager. They're in a mess right now. They just got knocked out of Copa America. And then all of a sudden he goes, hold on, man. They just hired Mauricio Pochettino, right? How does that change that conversation for a player like that? And he's not the only one out there. I'm sure there's others out there that they're scouring it because they do it. They've been doing it for years. That might also be a benefit, a major benefit of Pochettino getting named to this job as well. So I didn't want to forget that sort of angle, if you will.
No, 100%. And another thing that I wanted to touch upon as it pertains to player relationships, and you guys weren't part of the last show, but I had mentioned the ask that he had of Harry Kane during his time at Tottenham. He was the one that I think instituted and most likely convinced Harry Kane, I need you to drop from your 9 spot into midfield and start to unlock defenses that way, which allows Heung-min Son to run in behind. And I wonder if any of our players are going to do their homework on Pochettino and how he likes to play, because if you're a number 9 now and you've seen what he's done with Harry Kane in particular, using that as an example, Chuck, as our resident number 9 here on Call It What You Want when Brian McBrizzle McBride isn't here as well. But there was something that he added to Harry Kane's game that I think has now made Harry Kane the best passing number 9 in the world. And I wonder if he can identify other parts of our players and maybe realize some potential that they have yet to tap into in a more meaningful way or more consistent way. But I find that to be interesting. Can he look at our team and say, how can we get even more? That's obviously what he's being brought in to do. Yes. But using Harry Kane as an example, that must have been hard. Hey, Harry, I need you to do something that you really haven't done a lot of. And I'm going to really try to exploit that because I think it can give us some success. And I wonder if you're looking at it. You also
have every single day to work on it as a manager.
So therein lies the rub, right?
But Jimmy, I think when you got it, you got it. When you're a top manager, you understand. I think for Mauricio Pochettino, he's going to come in and say, there might be a slight learning curve of, maybe this works at the club level versus the international level because of the time spent with the players. But he knows what the hell he's doing. We wouldn't want anyone else in this position right now. I'll tell you that. Other than Jurgen Klopp, Pochettino's the top target, and we got him. That's incredible. What a landing spot for us to figure out that, or to find that Mauricio Pochettino can come in and say, all right, guys, this is how we're going to find success. And we know, Tony and I, we talked about it this morning on Morning Footy. He's organized. He's structured. He will find the strengths of the U.S. men's national team and play to those strengths. And then sharpen those weaknesses. How can we get away from being so weak in certain areas? And the most important thing, something that we all have experienced, is the hope, the belief that we can win. Mm-hmm. And Emma Hayes has touched on it with the U.S. women's national team, pushing through your limits, pushing past your limits. Don't say, hey, this is when we're stopped or we're tired or we can't. Keep going. I'm going to keep telling you, you can give more. And I think that's what Pochettino instills in all of the players in the locker room. And that's why I couldn't be more excited for our program.
Yeah, I'm thrilled as well. And Tones, while we're kind of in this individual player conversation or part of the conversation, Gagla Slonina, right? Obviously under the Chelsea umbrella. Pochettino was managing Chelsea last year. I'm pretty sure he's aware of him in particular. Now he's going to get more minutes at Barnsley. What do you think about Gaga's chances? Because if Matt Turner's not playing regularly, or if Ethan he's at Cardiff and whatever reason he's not seen as the guy, where do you think Gaga fits into this puzzle?
Yeah, this is an interesting one because he's going to play now, right? And he's going to play in League One in Barnsley, and hopefully next year he'll be in League Two leading into the World Cup. In the Championship, a league up, or with the first team. And that is a discussion we're going to have over and over again because Matt Turner, I believe it was 7 or 8 games, I can't remember off the top of my head, played in cup games leading into the World Cup for Arsenal, right? So it was almost enough to keep him sharp, and he looked sharp in the World Cup. I thought he was really good in the World Cup. But
agreed.
We're at a point now where he's playing less and less and less and less. And I think it showed in this Copa America. And I don't think if you play that many minutes, you can think 2 years down the road, he's going to be your goalkeeper. He's got to find a position where he's playing all the time. And I don't know where that club is. He doesn't know where that club is. So you got him, you got Ethan Horvath, who's going to play. Hopefully he'll continue to improve. Schulte just played in the Olympics, and I think we saw some frailties there with him, right? But I think he played because Gaga Slonina was in the offseason. So this is really important for Gaga. He's going to play a part in 2026. Can he push to wear the number 1 jersey? I sure hope so, because that would mean we're in a good position and he's played really, really well. I hope it's not Gaga plays because our other 3 goalkeepers aren't playing somewhere.
Yeah.
Right? I hope
Tony,
because
in the comments, they're saying you were a Chicago fan and you watched Gaga. That's the only reason he doesn't really have the
don't
talent.
go. Wait.
No,
Listen,
no.
Gaga just had a great debut at Barnsley. Don't let him. No, Tones. Don't take that bait. That's bait.
Charlie.
No.
Charlie was the fan who wrote it. That's his.
That's right.
His
Charlie's
burner
account is in the comments.
Jimmy, why'd you have to ruin it, man?
No,
why'd you have to ruin
Listen,
it?
Gaga had a great debut at Barnsley. 5 saves, 2 penalty shootout saves. He's expected to be the starter. So right now, everything's looking pretty good there. All right, we're going to take our next break and call it what you want. When we come back, we're going to dive into the playing style of Mauricio Pochettino and how we think that fits our player pool. So come back and join us for it. Oh, baby. Welcome back into Call It What You Want. I'm Jimmy Conrad alongside Tony Meola and Charlie Davies, emergency podcast, because we got some great news around the U.S. men's national team. Mauricio Pochettino has agreed to take over. That is what's up. So let's talk about Mauricio Pochettino. He has managed 5 teams in 13 years. He's got Espanyol in his locker. He's got Southampton. Then he's got Tottenham. Then PSG. And then Chelsea, and now the U.S. men's national team. That is quite a track record. And I think he's, as I mentioned before earlier in the show, he's really seen a lot of different types of situations. And I think that's led him to evolve into being more adaptable as a coach. Obviously, when you come in, You have a really clear way of, hey, this is how I want to play. Not to say you don't mold your formation to your team, but you also are very clear on this is my playing style on both sides of the ball. He is a disciple of Marcelo Bielsa and a huge fan of Pep Guardiola. You can see elements of both of those philosophies in his own. And more often than not, he plays with a back four. But there's been some instances, Big Tones, and when I jumped on Morning Footy, barely awake, I had mentioned that he has shown that he will dip his toe into a back three, which makes me happy, assuming he brings in the collection of players that fits that. But you've been preaching for a back three forever. What do you like about Pochettino and his playing style, no matter what the formation is?
Well, I like the organization. I like the fact that it's possession, but possession with a purpose, meaning that he wants to get forward quickly. His teams are generally good on a counterattack, which I think suits the skill set that a bunch of our players have. And he's organized. All his teams are always organized, right? So they value the ball, but they don't value it in places that aren't dangerous, right? They value the ball in places where you need to be dangerous. So I don't expect it to be slow and methodical. I also think there's a sense of creativity within his groups. You know, he allows you to be find spaces and be the player that you want to be. So I think these things fit well. But Jimmy, you kind of summed it up pretty. We can talk about X's and O's all we want. You said it, I think, in your first comment. This is a new voice for these players, right? And a voice that when he walks in that meeting for the first time, you can hear a pin drop, right? Because you guys know we've all been in a locker room when you're with a coach that you know what he reacts to, what he doesn't react to, what he gets mad at. You know, when they walk in the meeting, you're kind of messing around with your buddies and you're still joking and laughing, you know. But when a new manager comes in, what's it like when they come in? Everyone's just you sit up and you're staring at the front of the room and you're waiting to hear what's coming out of his mouth and how you can make the manager happy to put you on the field, right? So that's what they're going to get. And maybe it's better we don't have enough time. We don't have a lot of time. I think we have enough time. We don't have a lot of time where guys aren't going to get too comfortable. I think guys got to be on the edge of their seat all the time when you talk about the national team, especially if you talk about a national team that's about to play in a home World Cup, be the biggest of the three host countries in the World Cup and expected to do something, right? So I think the timing is perfect for all of this.
Yeah, I'm excited, Chuck, for all the reasons that Tony mentioned, and what a huge opportunity for that first meeting when he comes in to really set the tone for how you want this group to play and what you want it to look like in 2026. I almost want to reverse engineer it. This is how we want to finish. This is how we want to play. And how are we going to get there over these next 10 windows, or what do we have in a Gold Cup to make that happen? What are you excited the most about what he brings to the table tactically? Because we've talked a little bit about his man management and how we think we can squeeze the most out of this particular group. But what about the tactics makes you excited?
Well, I want to start from the beginning, where I think the demands are going to be pretty clear. You need to be playing in order to get called into the national team.
Right.
And be playing well for a lot of the guys. You know, some guys may go up and down with form, but they're playing consistently. Then there's some that have to be playing consistently and playing well to get called in. So that's the first one. Guys who are coming in, everyone feels that they've earned it, they deserve it, and everyone feels like they're in good physical fitness, right? Game shape. That you're not having to worry about, are we getting our match fitness now through these matches at the national team level, where that's not the case. The game's moving so fast, you don't have time to get match fit, or a majority of guys getting match fit. Maybe there's one, but I love that Pochettino is going to come in and kind of set the stage for how to get called in and how you can earn your place in the team. That's one. Two, he's going to have them structured so that they're not exposed and play the right players for the style of play that you're going to play. We saw at different times. Sometimes Gregg Berhalter liked to play a high line. He had slow people in the back. You can't do that with no cover or playing people out of position. And therefore, the game was so predictable. So I think that's what I'm really looking forward to, is for us, like you said, it's a new voice, but the unpredictability of what will come when he organizes the team and puts the right players in the right places.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. I want to see better in-game management. I guess when I think about some of our biggest games over the last 5 or 6 years with Gregg in charge, if Pochettino had been in charge, what would have looked different? How would he have handled that particular situation? I go right back to halftime against the Dutch in the round of 16
don't
at
do
the
it.
2022. No, just like how would Pochettino have addressed what was being taken away, right? Because we got outcoached in that one. And I know there's people that are like, hey, I support Chelsea, and he could have done a lot better last year in terms of in-game management, and or maybe not. Maybe he did.
I thought he was good last year.
I thought he was.
I know.
I thought he was incredible.
I get that, but I'm just saying. And he inherited a dumpster fire, and
yeah, I'm talking about the back half of the season.
The back half of the season, it felt like they were really cooking with gas, and everybody seemed to understand their roles. So yeah, and there's a lot to unpack there, but the in-game management I think is going to be really important. What I do appreciate when I look back at his history, when he got to that Champions League final. Now, because he's a Bielsa disciple, high pressing is in his blood. It's in his DNA. That's what he wants to do. But in that particular tournament, especially in the knockout rounds, he became better at let's press out of a mid block. Let's be really hard to break down and tough to break through and in those passing lanes and make everything as predictable as possible. And I like that he has that adaptability and flexibility and fluidity in his methodology and in terms of how he wants to set up his team, even though I think in his DNA, he wants to go high press and make it as difficult as he can for his opponents as high up the field as possible. So it's going to be interesting to see how he sets us up. I can't wait for him to take over. We're going to get into him not taking over in September, apparently. Hopefully that changes in that first window, but he will be there as it seems for that October 12th game against Panama. And the sooner we can get him in, obviously, the better. So let's take a look.
I want to see Jesse Marsch versus Pochettino. Let's go.
Yeah, dude, sign me up for that. I want to see us versus Canada. That alone with Jesse coming in. We're going to try to get Jesse on the show. We'll see if he agrees.
Yeah, I want to see how he feels about this.
Yeah, I know. Let's get him back. Let's get his podcast hat back on and see
hey,
if he'll join us for a future show.
I'm just happy that Pochettino passed the cognitive test. I'm just happy that he went through all of that.
Yeah, that interview, the fake interview, he handled it well.
I love that.
Oh man,
I love that. Yeah, I kind of want to understand the interview process and if it was the same that Jesse.
I want to know the actor in that process too.
Yeah, for those that don't know, that's a bit of a deep cut. But Jesse said that he had to interview with an actor about how that actor was acting as a sporting director of a foreign club, and could he recruit players even in a non-international window, FIFA international recognized window. And Jesse was like, "What am I even doing? This is ridiculous." So
yeah.
Funny
but
stories.
He went through with it.
He did. He was trying to be respectful of the process. Yeah. And once he didn't get hired, he did not like that part of the process.
He said, I'm blazing everything down. By the way, shout out to Darren Howerton, one of my in Massachusetts. He's watching for the first time. So
wow, welcome, Darren. Appreciate you.
Nice.
I love that. All right. We're gonna take our next break. When we come back, we're gonna talk about that interim coach Mikey Varas and those 2 games in September, and how this impacts that. So don't go anywhere.
News just in.
What?
Thomas Rongen was the actor.
No way.
Just playing.
Oh, wow. I was like, that doesn't seem like an actor. Jesse would know who that was.
That would have been hilarious.
Charlie.
Well, my favorite part about emergency podcasts, I feel like we could just talk forever about this particular subject.
Yeah, we could.
We're running on adrenaline and raw emotion, and obviously this particular case, a lot of excitement about the future for the U.S. men's national team. Now that Mauricio Pochettino is reportedly going to be the boss moving forward in for the 2026 World Cup. However, it's being stated, and there are reports from Mark Ogden of ESPN, and Jeff Carlisle amplified this as well, who said that there are some issues with Todd Boehly and Chelsea, that Pochettino actually hasn't been paid out on his contract until they can get from his time at Chelsea. And if they can't get that ironed out, he can't sign anything new with U.S. Soccer. So, of course, there's a hiccup of some kind that's holding this up and a bit of an obstacle, which means it looks like Mikey Varas, the U20 coach, will take over as interim for those September games against Canada and New Zealand. Now, we talked about on the last show, you two weren't here, but there's a great stat that out of our last 100 games, 26 of them have been in charge with an interim coach. Yes. And I failed to say that there's Daniel Smith out there found this stat for us. And I want to give a shout out to Daniel because I didn't do it properly the first time around. And this was the tweet. If we have an interim manager for the next 2 matches, which is the 2 I'm referencing, the U.S. men's national team will have had an interim for 26 of the 100 matches post Trinidad and Tobago, where we got knocked out. So that's 26% of those games, 2,340 minutes worth of game time. That's crazy that we've given and allotted to an interim manager. Now, a lot of handouts, which we could have been using to somebody else to cultivate their ideas and methodology. But shout out once again to Daniel. Thank you so much for that. But now we got Mikey Varas coming in. Now, Brian McBride, who's not on the show, he hired Mikey Varas. So he had a lot to say and really is high on Mikey and what he brings to the table.
I am not given his U20 debacle.
I wish Brizzle was here to defend himself.
I would love to hear what Brian had to say, because in the U20s, they got it wrong. Diego Luna stood out, but they got it wrong. So for me, I don't know what we're doing here. And he was an assistant of Gregg Berhalter. Why? So what's the point of having him in that position? I don't get it. Tony, correct me if I'm wrong.
I mean, you're going to have him if you need him, right? You're going to have him if you can't get this deal done in time. I still think you're going to have him because once you get Pochettino's deal done, remember, we're hearing about 6 to 8 guys are going to come with him, right? So that means you got to drop 6 or 8 contracts in order to get Pochettino's staff here. Apparently, he's going to take his longtime goalkeeper coach. His son is on the staff. He's got his longtime assistant coach. I don't know all the names, so I apologize. I haven't studied that far into it. And I'm sure there's some backroom staff that he wants to take with him. But he's got this thing he needs to deal with at Chelsea, right? And that's Todd Boehly. So you guys know there's severance packages when you leave a club, and he's going to have to sort out. And U.S. Soccer is going to have to sort through all of that. Because in the end, it's going to come down to money for Todd Boehly. How much did he owe him? How much is he going to have to pay him? And that's how they'll move forward. So I don't know we don't know if this is going to get done by September, but hopefully it will. But then there's a lot of things that still need to happen. So it sounds like quick timing, but it doesn't please us at all because we want to see him on the sideline with his guys like tomorrow.
Yeah, hey, we got a great comment, by the way, Jimmy.
Well, Chuck, hold that comment. Chuck, wait. Hold that comment. We're going to keep the party going on YouTube, but we have to sign off to say thank you so much for hanging out with us on the Golazo Network. We're going to keep that party going. The La Fiesta is going to keep happening. Call it what you want on YouTube. Thank you for hanging out with us on Golazo Network. We'll see you there whenever we have our next show, but let's keep it going on YouTube. Don't go anywhere. Okay, now that we're off Golazo Network, let's get into the comments. Chuck, as our surveyor and manager of the chat and of the vibes, what do you got for us?
So respect to everybody in the comment section, as always. I've been really trying to keep it together because I tell you, I've been right here a couple of times reading some of the comments.
Stones. What a preface.
Woo!
Yeah.
But
here we go.
Somebody was like, hey, not Tony Meola, that's Clark Kent. That's Clark Meola. I said, yeah.
I love it.
Oh,
hey,
look
I'm
at
trying to do my job, and I'm reading 2 minutes in the segment, 90 seconds in the show, 1 minute in the show. Like, I'm trying to figure out the timing. We don't have a clock here, so that's what I was doing. But there you go. Who am I now? I'm Tony now.
Guys, you guys triggered Tony. Here he goes. You set him off.
Hey, that was a first. We got Tones triggered this show, which was a first. Monumental moment, and call it what you want history. Chuck, let's you have any other comments? You're obviously, I thought you had a couple other ones going outside of
I mean, literally they're cooking in the comment section.
What do you got, Chuck?
Another one that I really enjoyed seeing and I hadn't really had thought about is El Tree is crying right now.
That's a good one.
Mexico is like, what the hell?
Yeah.
What's this? You know, they probably are like, how the hell?
But they got Rafa Marquez back in.
It's dumpsterfire.com over there. And we're bringing in Mauricio Pochettino? What? Yeah, so I love that comment.
Are we calling him head coach? Like, for me, Pochettino's a manager to me. Like, I can't see him going, hi, I'm Mauricio Pochettino, the U.S. men's national team head coach. Like, I manage this
Sponsored
team.
by
That's
MLS. We need
sponsored by MLS.
We need can we have an extra tag like Jesse has? Yeah, I want that.
Yeah.
I want that.
I'm seeing another comment from good old Dalton Harris. I know he's a regular. Has my opinion changed on trophies because we have Pochettino lined up and I didn't seem big on him in the past? In what world was I not big on Pochettino? I didn't think he was realistic. I didn't think he was realistic.
All in on Thierry Henry. You were going all in on Thierry Henry.
Because let's be honest, did any of us think? You set me off because there's been people in the comments have alluded to that, and now you just set me off. All right, well let's get this thing straight.
He didn't want
get it straight.
This is U.S. soccer. We're accustomed to them not getting the names that we all hope and wish for. It's wishful thinking. When you're talking about Klopp, we all knew Klopp wasn't going to come take this job. Mauricio Pochettino, Thomas Tuchel, all these big names, Xavi. I was like, no way in hell would any of them go, yeah, this is the job for me right now. So if we're talking about the next tier down, Thierry Henry just got a silver medal. Thierry Henry is a legendary player who's really transitioning into being a top manager. So yes, I would take Thierry Henry all day if we can't get the top caliber coaches. But guess what? Matt Crocker proved us all wrong. He said, you hired me for a reason, and it's to get top caliber candidates to come in and do the job. Well, he did it. He got one of the biggest names out there, a name that any national team in the world would be lucky to have and be grateful for, and top clubs. We got Mauricio Pochettino. Let's go. So there you have it.
I can't believe you didn't want Pochettino in the beginning.
I can't believe you didn't want him. I mean, that's just ridiculous, Chuck. Chuck's playing both sides of the fence, everybody. Listen, you guys were on Morning Footy earlier today, and you put out a projected 11 for who you think Mauricio Pochettino. I'm very curious to see what you guys came up with. And you have Matt Turner in goal, but if he's not playing, what do you do there? Anthony Robinson on the left, Richards and Miles Robinson center backs, Serginho Dest when healthy on the right. You have Reina, Adams, and McKinney in midfield. I don't know if that's what we're going to see. This is
Jimmy.
We
didn't put this 11 together.
Yeah, Jimmy. Let's clarify that. Truth.
Tony and myself did not touch that 11.
So this was a Morning Footy projected.
This
11.
is more of a A. Ivis type thing. That's what I'm going to say.
Producer A. Ivis is putting this out here.
What I will say is, like I said on Morning Footy, Yunus Musa, I think, has started to show some really quality because Fonseca's playing him, and I think Fonseca sees what a gifted player he is. He's talented. I find it hard to believe that Pochettino won't find him into that starting 11. So that's one name to throw around in there. Again, Serginho Dest has a long way to go to getting back to match fitness, not only match fitness, but playing at the international level. And then Tyler Adams has been injured a lot. Gio Reyna, if he's not playing, he's not getting called in like he has been in the past. You got to be playing to get called in the national team. So I think that's a big misconception right now. And then we're forgetting about Johnny Cardoso. He's playing
I brought him up earlier. Yeah, I brought him up earlier.
I mean, he has a lot to say about getting into that team as well.
This opens the door for everybody. This is a real fresh start, especially for the players that felt like they were on the fringes or not called in at all. And this is good. And it's going to keep players that aren't playing on their toes. They got to find a situation to what you said earlier, Tones, where there's an urgency now. You got to get your shit together because things are changing. It's not the same as before, and this is exactly what this team needs. You see it from Tyler Adams's quotes. Walker Zimmerman alluded to it after the Olympics. It's got to matter to wear the shirt.
Tim Ream right after
bring
the
that in. That's right. Tim Ream said something similar. Like there's all, and these are some of the older guys or the leaders of the team saying this. So there's clearly something happening behind the scenes where there's the energy, the enthusiasm isn't where it needs to be for us to have success. And I think Mauricio Pochettino, who's already has a track record of bringing people together and instilling that belief, is an incredible hire for a lot of different reasons, but definitely in this space as well. Okay, final thoughts. Tones, I'm coming to you first. Final thoughts for this emergency podcast around Mauricio Pochettino taking over the job of the U.S. men's national team.
Yeah, massive news. Really excited about Pochettino potentially coming here. Hopefully this thing gets done sooner rather than later. I think it's a seminal moment for the U.S. men's national team in getting a guy that was one of the top targets we had And I hope that he eventually turns out to be the right guy. I think he is. He was in the beginning of this process was sort of a pie in the sky type of candidate, a guy that we thought would be on the list, but we didn't know we could get. And because of Matt Crocker's relationship with Pochettino was able to pick up the phone and clearly get him to a point where he agrees to become the manager of our national team. Now they've got some legal work to do on the backside, but I'm assuming they get all of that done. And sometime here in the near future, we're going to start our trek towards 2026.
All right. I love that. How about you, Chuck? Final thoughts.
There could not be better news around the U.S. men's national team, period. And I love the laughing mustache in the comments. If Bowley doesn't fix this, he loses citizenship. He is done. He is out. So get it done. We need this hire ASAP. And even if he's not on the sidelines for the next friendlies in September, coaching, at least I want him there. Just having that presence there, letting guys know, hey, this is the step one up into the World Cup, and I got my eye on all of you guys, and this is the standard. And have that first initial meeting with the players and let everyone know, hey, the excitement's there, the demand for excellence is there, and we're gonna do something special. So I'm hyped. Let's go.
Oh, I love that. Love the hype. Love the energy. I'm just gonna say, welcome, Mauricio. We're so glad that you're here. We have some expectations of you, of course, but this is exciting times for the U.S. men's national team, and I am upwards, onwards. Here we go. 2026 is looking good. Thank you so much for hanging out with us.
Oh, bye, Tony.
What you want. The emergency podcast is done. Tones just dropped off, and I love that. And I love this. This is exciting. This is positive.
Yes.
And good.
Keep the comments strong. The comments have been awesome.
Coming. Thank you for all your support, and we'll catch you later. I don't even know when the next show is, but just
trigger us another time.
Turn on your notifications so you don't miss a show. All right, we love
don't
you guys.
miss a show.
Don't miss a show. Later.
Like, subscribe.
Yeah, Monday. We'll be back Monday.